Hello and welcome to Sunshine for Your Life. You know, I'm fascinated by the arts. I'm fascinated by poetry, by music, by dancing, anything that's artistic. And I believe that God creates masterpieces for us. And I also believe that God can create us into masterpieces. When I see a beautiful painting, I know that it is a masterpiece. If I listen to or play a beautiful piece of music, I know that it is a masterpiece. And when I read the Bible with its scriptures and poetry, I know that God is the author. It couldn't be anything else except God. So what is a masterpiece? Well, there are different definitions, but I believe that a masterpiece is created with the greatest of skill, the best that can be done. And that's also the definition of some of the different definitions that I've read. You and I are created in the image of God, and God is working in us to get us to the level that He wants us to be, the best that we can possibly be. And whatever we do reflects God's glory. In fact, you can't have anything or be anything unless God has already given it to you. Now, the first verse on the screen is going to be from Colossians 1:16. I'm going to read the last part of that and then go back and read the whole thing. And this is what it says. Everything gets started in Him and finds its purpose in Him. Let me go and read the whole thing. For everything, absolutely everything, above and below, visible and invisible, everything gets started in Him and finds its purpose in Him. And I believe that to be the truth because God is the creator. The purpose of your life is far greater than what you think it is, and it's far bigger than yourself. He is making you into what He wants you to be. He's creating you to be a masterpiece. We ask children, what do you want to be when you grow up? But we're asking the wrong question because it's God who directs our lives. And we should be helping them to think in terms of what gifts has God given me and what can I do with those gifts and what would He want me to do with those gifts, rather than selfishly thinking, well, I've got to do this or I've got to do that and nothing else will matter. I had one of my nieces tell me once that she was going to be a brain surgeon. She says, it's a brain surgeon or nothing. And I carefully explained to her, she was a child at the time, there's lots of things in medicine beside brain surgery. And she did turn out to be in the medical profession and is doing very well with it. But she's not a brain surgeon. God will get you to be where He wants you to be. So we should not ask the wrong questions, but help people to investigate what God really wants of them. You know the old poem, only one life, 'twill soon be past, only what's done for Christ will last. I once saw a man on television and he was trying to sell exercise equipment, and he claimed, and I heard this over and over again in the advertisement, once you get control of your body, you can do anything you want to do. Now, personally, I don't believe that statement is true. For one thing, who controls their own body? Some people get cancer. How do they control that? Some people have other kinds of illnesses. How do they control those illnesses? I do not have control of my own body, and neither does anybody else have control over their bodies. But this is something we don't have to worry about. We know that we have been called, and God will call us to what is best for us. Not only have we been called, but Ephesians 2:10, this is not going to be on the screen, but Ephesians 2:10 says that God has already prepared the works for us to do. In other words, God has your career already planned for you. He always has. He knew you when you were being born. He knew you in your mother's womb. And He knew what He wanted of you. And He already prepared the work that He wanted you to do when you got old enough to do it. And then He prepares you to do the work. It's a perfect relationship. He wants you to do a certain thing. He gets you ready to do that certain thing. Then He meshes you together with it, you see. And this is something that you have to understand, that God's will for you is perfect. So it should give you hope that He's making you into the masterpiece that He wants you to be. God is perfect. He has created you, and if you have problems, remember that He's with you. You're not alone. He's going through your problems with you. He's going to stand by you, and you truly are a part of something that's greater than yourself. So don't define yourself by your problems. God has not forgotten you, and your identity is based upon your relationship with Him, not your individual problems, not your career, not your schooling. Your whole identity should be based in terms of your relationship with Him. All these other things are important, and they're a part of your life, but they're just a part of your life. Your relationship with Him is the most important thing that you have. God thought of you before you were born. He planned your life before you were born without your input. He didn't ask you first, oh, by the way, when you grow up, this is what you're going to be. He planned your life for you without your even knowing it, and you have been growing in that plan as you develop yourself, and you don't know where you're going to end up. You don't know what you're going to be. If you're a child, you don't know what you're going to be when you grow up. If you're an adult, well, who knows what's coming next down the pike? God is a surprising God, and He has wonderful things in store for you. Now, the second verse on the screen is going to be James 1:5, and this is what it says. I'll read part of it, and then I'll go back and read all of it. If any of you lacks wisdom, he should ask God, who gives generously to all, and it will be given him. Let me read that again. If any of you lacks wisdom, he should ask God, who gives generously to all, and it will be given to him. Now, this is what it says for the full length of that verse, and it's not much longer, but this is what it says. If any of you lacks wisdom, he should ask God, who gives generously to all, without finding fault, and it will be given to him. He's never going to get angry if you ask for wisdom. He's going to be glad that you asked the question. He's going to be glad because he wants to lead you, and he's a God that answers prayer. And also the third verse up is going to be Ephesians 1:6, and this is what it says. And here again, I'm reading part of it, and then I'll read the whole thing. In love, he predestined us to be adopted as his sons through Jesus Christ. Let me read that again. In love, he predestined us to be adopted as his sons through Jesus Christ. Now, let me read the whole thing. In love, he predestined us to be adopted as his sons through Jesus Christ in accordance with his pleasure and will. And this is always important. It's always in accordance with his pleasure and will, because he's perfect. He has a perfect will for you. He has perfect designs for you, and he wants you to grow into that, because you will be happy if you do. God is going to help you to grow and to be able to serve him. And I'd like to give you some words of encouragement that will help you as you mature in the Lord. Remember that as Christians, your real citizenship is in heaven. Life is short, and we need to do everything we can for God while we have the time to do it. David prayed, this is not on the screen, but David in the Old Testament prayed, and this is in Psalm 39:4. He said these words, Lord, help me to realize how brief my time on earth will be. We don't have much time here. We may live to be 104, and that's really age. But when you consider the whole scope of life, and when you consider the whole scope of the universe and the earth and all the days that have been created since the beginning of time, we're really not here very long. And 1 Peter 2:11 says that we are strangers and pilgrims going through life. And of course, that's not on the screen either. We're like strangers and pilgrims going through life. Your identity is eternal. Yet while we are on earth, we are Christ's ambassadors. It's not our final destination. We will pass on to eternity, and if we're Christians, we will go to heaven. Now, Proverbs 16:4, and this is not on the screen, but I'm reading it verbatim. Proverbs 16:4, the Lord has made everything for his own purpose, and everything exists, including us, to show the glory of God. Living for God's glory is our greatest achievement. We bring glory to God by fulfilling his purpose in our lives. We also bring glory to God through worship, our lifestyle, our loving one another. And John 13:34 and 35 It's not going to be on the screen. It says you must love one another. By this all men will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. Love is the predominant thing. Love should be the predominant thing. And as this world seems to get further and further away from the truth, we find that hate crimes abound more and more. And it's sad because it doesn't have to be that way. We also become Christ-like, and God can use us in working for Him. And as you grow, you will realize that God does love you, that He made you for His purpose. You're not an accident, and you can have a growing relationship with Him, and it will be filled with promise and hope. Growth and learning take time. Producing masterpieces takes time. But as you grow, you'll learn with the experience that you have that God will walk through any experience that you have with you, because you are never alone. You can serve Him, you can allow Him to do wonderful things through you. And remember, not all experiences are going to be pleasant. Paul was faithful, but he went to prison. John the Baptist was faithful, but he was beheaded. And many people have been martyred on their way to glory. But whatever it is, God is going to be with you in it, no matter what happens to you. All you have to do is to be faithful. And all the people in the past that were faithful, they are rewarded now, and they know their rewards were going to be in heaven as they searched and as they served Him. You don't have to fear the future. God has it all mapped out. You have only to be faithful, and God will use you. And you will hear these wonderful words from the New Testament in Matthew, where it says, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of your Lord." There's a lot of joy in serving God. There are all kinds of promises for future rewards in serving God, and He will bring you to the place He wants you to be, because you're going to be His masterpiece. He will create you to be a masterpiece for Him. So I'm going to close it here. We'll be doing something else next time. Please join me then.